Welcome to the Calm Analytics channel. This is Boris Tizengausen. Today is the 12th of September. Lots of interesting news in this issue. Russia openly threatens Finland with war. The State Duma made a statement. Poland closes border with Belarus. Well, there was hysteria in the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Trump's scandalous statement about drones in Poland. And why did Trump give jewelry to Lukashenko? And in Russia itself, a street battle is starting between Kadyrov and the Russian community. All this and more will be covered in today's episode. There's a lot of interesting stuff ahead. So if this is your first time on this channel, feel free to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. So, Russia has threatened Finland with war. Just a couple of episodes ago, we talked about how Medvedev inspected the border with Finland and announced that Finland, it turns out, is preparing a springboard for an attack on Russia. And right after that, statements on this very topic started pouring in. A coordinated intimidation campaign, or is it real preparation of the public for the idea that Finland is now one of Russia's main enemies and could attack at any moment? And now yet another rather well-known figure has come out with this statement. He's not just some random person off the street. Russian Colonel General and State Duma Deputy Andrei Kartapolov called Finland a hotbed of fascism and threatened it with war to protect Russia's national interests. Let's watch this video.
Of the truly responsible and accountable political leadership of Finland, first and foremost, and indeed, essentially, it is becoming a veritable and dangerous hotbed of fascism, even more rapidly and alarmingly so than Ukraine. And this development is a cause for serious global concern. I feel very deeply and genuinely sorry for the resilient Finnish people who have truly been through an incredibly challenging and difficult great deal, and who most certainly do not deserve the unfortunate fate and the dire situation they are currently experiencing now. I really hope that sooner or later the Finnish people will realize this. But if this absolutely and utterly incompetent policy of the current Finnish political leadership ultimately leads to any truly tragic and devastating consequences, then that, without any doubt, will be entirely on their conscience. We unequivocally know precisely how to effectively protect our vital interests, and we are fully prepared for any and all possible developments that may arise.
Yeah, so he's accusing the Finnish government of irresponsible policies. It turns out, in his opinion, Finland is becoming a hotbed of fascism even faster than Ukraine. And just how cynical is he, right? I feel very sorry for the Finnish people who have been through a lot. And let me remind you what the Finnish people have been through. First, the Soviet Union treacherously attacked Finland, accusing Finland of wanting to attack the Soviet Union. That's exactly what Medvedev did recently. And just like with Ukraine, the Soviet Union picked the wrong target. Or rather, they expected a completely different outcome. In the Winter War, the Soviet Union, according to various estimates, lost up to 400,000 people. But according to some estimates, the number was much higher because, as you can imagine, the data was, of course, kept tightly under wraps. And they occupied part of Finland. So there are some very striking parallels with today's war in Ukraine. In fact, they were planning to take Helsinki in just 3 days. That is, the Soviet military command planned to capture Finland in 20 days as a birthday present for Stalin on December 21st, for his 60th birthday. But the military campaign against the Finns turned into an absolute nightmare for the Red Army. So, of course, no one was able to finish the war in 20 days. By the way, after 20 days, they already wanted to hold a victory march in Helsinki. That was the plan. Just like Putin in Ukraine, he planned to take Kiev in 3 days, a march down Kreshchatyk. They brought their parade uniforms with them. Now, let's remind Kartapolov and the whole world what the Finnish people went through. This shameful war later showed Hitler that the Soviet army wasn't as powerful as it seemed. And it was after seeing how they fought in Finland that Hitler decided to attack the Soviet Union. By the way, I think Finland and Sweden should probably give Putin some kind of certificate, since he was the main driving force behind Finland and Sweden joining NATO. In my opinion, no one has done as much for NATO expansion as Putin has. And after Finland joined the North Atlantic Alliance, which happened in 2023, the Russian military leadership began restructuring and creating a separate Leningrad military district. Well, that's it. Now Finland is in NATO, NATO is at the borders, or rather there's even more NATO at the borders now. In any case, I wish strength and patience to the heroic Finnish people. We understand you perfectly and you understand us too. Thank you. By the way, you keep writing in the comments, oh, and thank you for your help. Just yesterday, your president was here with us. Maybe he's still here in Kiev. We also have an inadequate neighbor, just like you do. And a couple of characteristic details about this Winter War. The Soviet soldiers back then turned out to be, well, completely unprepared for the 30 to 40 degree frost. Many froze, suffered from frostbite, and about 6,000 Soviet soldiers surrendered. And when I was preparing this material, I came across archival photographs, how the Soviet prisoners were being led. On their feet, they had Finnish footwear, Finnish boots that went up to the knee, made of fur, literally from the ankle to the knee, warm. In other words, in captivity, these Soviet soldiers were given proper warm Finnish footwear so they wouldn't freeze their feet off, something their own command hadn't done for them. Oh, and after the war, out of those 6,000, about 100 people didn't want to return to their homeland. And they made the right choice, because those who did return, some were executed immediately, and others were sent to labor camps. After all, surrendering was forbidden, and their families were evicted from the cities. One more detail. When I was reading about this war, it felt as if a parallel stretched across the years to this war. You see, Soviet soldiers were shocked by the standard of living in Finnish homes, which is why these houses often became targets for looting. They would take food, drink, eat, and try to send things back to their families. And here is what a Red Army soldier from the 4th Separate Engineer Company writes. Every time a vehicle is sent to Leningrad, a huge number of parcels are sent along with it. The quartermaster sent several kilograms of candles and a package of leather. The military doctor sent a suitcase with manufactured goods, and the commissar, Comrade Muzaffarov, sent 2 truckloads of various things to Krasnogvardeysk, including bicycles and suits for his wife. Well, we all remember that. Remember how Russian soldiers looted in Ukraine when they saw how Ukrainians lived? How, like ants, well, maybe not ants, more like mules loaded down with stolen equipment, dishes, carpets, even plumbing fixtures, they carried it all away. They trudged through the rusty Chernobyl forest, and then, from Belarus, they sent the loot to various corners of the Russian Federation through the post office. And the kind Belarusian partisans leaked a lot of interesting things online. Hours of footage from post offices show huge lines of Russians with looted bundles, carpets, and these plasma TVs. They come up and say where to send all this, it's all caught on camera, who sent what and where. Later, by the way, activists would call these wives, so, how is it? Did you get the carpet from Buka, from Irpin, and so on. But the Finns, by the way, during that war, quickly started using this trait of Soviet soldiers for various items that could tempt them, basically for any item a Soviet soldier might want. They would plant explosives. So, for example, there would be a beautiful cigarette case lying on the ground, a Soviet soldier would bend down to pick it up, and well, there would be no more soldier. They would put them under bicycle seats and so on. In other words, they mined all sorts of things. And it was especially tough for those who tried to warm up in Finnish houses. As a gift, they would put a demolition bomb in the stove, and the house would collapse along with the Red Army soldiers inside. In general, I think the threat from Russia will disappear for all its neighbors only when Russia itself disappears in its current form. I think this is inevitable. Putin has already planted that very demolition bomb under Russia with this war against Ukraine. And by the way, it's been a while since we've had any news about the deneptization of Russia. Let me fix that, friends. Here's a beautiful video just the way you like it.
Maybe it'll at least shut down. Otherwise, what if it falls on Lukoil right now? Yes! Look, it's flying straight at Lukoil!
Otherwise, what if it falls on Lukoil right now, says the woman off screen. Well, first of all, it won't just randomly fall, but will hit the Lukoil oil depot with pinpoint accuracy. The local governor said that everything was shut down. Well, that's how they do it, you see. They can knock down drones with an oil depot in one fell swoop. Or sometimes they hit a refinery. Don't stop now. Today the Pilalo, a vessel of the Russian Federation, was hit at the largest oil port, Prymorsk, in the Leningrad region. Well, they've pretty much got their aim dialed in there already. I think next time it'll be a definite bingo. There are a lot of tanks with all sorts of flammable substances on the premises, so it's going to be quite a show. And today, in the occupied part of Luhansk region, a drone warehouse was hit. There were also explosions today near Moscow and in the Rostov region. All in all, it was good, bright and loud. That's how it goes sometimes. War returns to where it came from. Friends, let me remind you about our separate fundraiser, an important one for the Bohdan Khmelnytsky Brigade. Right now, they are heroically fighting in the Pokrovsk direction, destroying those monsters who came to our land. It's precisely because such warriors defend Ukraine that Putin's offensive failed, but they need our help, yours and mine. Let's help them. I'm asking you very much. There's not much left to go. All the links to private, Monobank and PayPal are in the description of this video if you want to help from abroad. A special thank you to each and every one of you. These ATVs are already reserved for them. So as soon as we collect the funds, we'll hand them over to the soldiers right away. There will definitely be a video. They protect us and we will help them. This is the least we can do for them right now. So I really ask you to join in. Poland is closing its border with Belarus, or rather the border has already been closed. Well, obviously the reason is both the drones that flew into Polish territory and accordingly the military exercises that have started in Belarus. Since midnight, yes, last night all border crossings with Belarus have been closed. Traffic between the borders in both directions has been stopped. And the Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, announced that he would close everything, including railway crossings, which are also now closed. So that's how it is. Take it or leave it. Lukashenko didn't manage to play the good cop. He even tried to shoot down Russian drones that were flying into Poland, but it didn't work out. They decided it wasn't allowed. It didn't fly. You can't sit on 10 chairs with one potato. In other words, with one hand he's supposedly shooting down Russian drones, and with the other he's conducting Russian-Belarusian military exercises. And the day before, let me remind you, a Polish priest was arrested in Belarus. What's important is that Poland really did shut down rail connections. So soon, Lukashenko will get a big hello from Beijing with the question, what about transit through Belarus? Because Belarus is also a key hub in China's massive One Belt, One Road project. But somehow now it just isn't working out. And Donald Trump, however, has a different opinion about the drones. US President Donald Trump stated that the incursion of Russian drones into Polish airspace might have been a mistake. According to Bloomberg, Trump made this comment to journalists at the White House. Direct quote, "It could have been a mistake, but despite that, I am not happy with everything related to this situation. But I hope it will all be over soon."
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
A mistake? 20 drones is a mistake? And Trump also added that he would condemn Russia even for just approaching that line. So the launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile could also be a mistake? What, someone accidentally pressed the button? Come on, Donald, who hasn't made a mistake? It wasn't on purpose. You can condemn us. You can give us that condemning look, Trump. But what is this inhumane murder of a Ukrainian woman? Trump demands the death penalty for a murderer, but is proud of his good relationship with someone who has killed thousands and thousands of Ukrainians. How can you even describe this strange love Trump has for Putin? And not just for Putin, by the way. Today I read another news story about the Agroführer, about Lukashenko, or Kolya's dad, as we also call him, and I can't believe my eyes. The President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, through the Deputy Special Representative for Ukraine, John Cole, sent a gift to the self-proclaimed President of Belarus, Lukashenko, cufflinks depicting the White House. Direct quote from Cole. "I was already leaving the Oval Office and he stopped me, Trump, and said, 'Wait, hold on, don't forget to give this to the President.' What kind of club do they have going on over there? First, Putin gives all the CIS leaders rings, signet rings. Now Trump is giving cufflinks to Lukashenko. By the way, the cufflinks are gold-plated, really, with an image of the White House. Is this, I don't know, some kind of retirement flirting club? What's going on over there? Well, hold on to your seat. Now there's going to be news about the closure of these borders with Belarus. The Russian Foreign Ministry has demanded that Poland open the border with Belarus. The Russian Foreign Ministry has issued a statement. The agency is demanding that Warsaw consider the consequences and reconsider its decision. Zakharova made a statement. Looks like Medvedev is completely out of it somewhere, so they sent out Zakharova. According to Zakharova, the movement restrictions will supposedly harm Poland's international partners and hurt the republic's own businesses. They know perfectly well without your input. They just love to worry about the well-being of other countries. It'll only be worse for you. Don't impose sanctions. And Zakharova also stated that the Polish authorities ignored. This is why I said, hold on to your seat. They ignored the gesture of goodwill from Moscow and Minsk, who supposedly moved part of their maneuvers further from the border and reduced the number of troops and equipment in these exercises. And the Russian Foreign Ministry also claims that the border closure is evidence of Warsaw's policy of escalating tensions in Europe. A gesture of goodwill? Would you look at that? They reduced the number of equipment and troops. Actually, it's the armed forces of Ukraine who are doing that in a licensed and professional manner, reducing the amount of equipment and the number of troops. They do it every day in Ukraine. And look, they launched 24 drones and through the territory of Belarus, no less. And now they're outraged that the border was closed to them. Good job, Poles. That means they hit exactly where they needed to. By the way, when it comes to blocking trucks and closing the border, Poland is perfectly capable of doing that. By the way, today the Polish foreign minister arrived in Kyiv. I think these issues will also be discussed. And by the way, there's a joint program. They decided, after all, that Ukraine would help Poland defend itself against Russian drones. There will be such a joint program. By the way, friends, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. To subscribe, you need to click the subscribe button. That's today's useful tip. In fact, it really helps the channel grow, right? And the more of us there are, the brighter the glow from the burning, let's say, behinds of the fans of the Russian world. So go ahead and subscribe. Another interesting development is happening in Russia right now. I read about it with interest yesterday, checked it, and it's true. The Chechen response to the Russian community. Alodinov officially announces the creation of the Friendship of Peoples community. Previously, Kadyrov was preparing a project in response to the growing influence of Malofeev's group. This so-called Russian community, right now their entire internet space is flooded with videos about it. If somewhere someone who isn't Russian behaves improperly, the Russian community shows up and, well, sorts things out. And now a response has arrived. The next step will be the large-scale rollout of this Friendship of Peoples community structure across the regions. In major cities, there will be headquarters where they'll start bringing in all sorts of fighters, MMA athletes, and respected leaders from various diasporas. Basically, they will oppose the Russian community in Russia, disrupt nationalist events, and so on. The Kremlin is already concerned because this is an open conflict between Kadyrov and Malofeev, and their organizations are now starting to act in almost exactly the same way. So essentially we're talking about the preparation of two street armies, and just imagine both sides have experience, weapons, and so on. So it's possible that by the end of the year this could turn into a really serious conflict. And as you can imagine, a conflict based on interethnic, international, or interreligious grounds is a very serious matter, given that Kadyrov is barely hobbling around now, barely able to walk, and is actively preparing his son, the decorated one, as his successor. Anything could happen. And as for Prigozhin's march on Moscow, we've already seen that. A large army wasn't needed there. Well, in this case, as they say, we're rooting for both teams. And yes, Putin's fairy tales about a big multinational family only last until the first serious street clash between the Russian community and this so-called community of friendship among peoples. Russians have always considered themselves the titular nation, viewing everyone else as some kind of Untermenschen. That is, by the way, as they have there, well, they show the films Brother and Brother 2 on big screens. Or do they not show them anymore? Did they cut out the scenes of brotherly love toward other peoples? And also, regarding the internal situation in Russia, I came across another interesting piece of news today. In Russia, hackers broke into the email of a certain oligarch named Abramov and pulled out a whole bunch of different documents, real estate, some accounts, notarial certificates, and so on. But one interesting document caught my attention. In it, Abramov's trusted representatives, senators, as many as 12 people, asked Putin, in a 4-page letter, to stop the war according to the US plan, since their business and the economy are being hit hard. Well, quite obviously they were primarily concerned about their own business interests and much, much less concerned about the overall well-being of the people living in the areas around them. And besides those who are making good money off the war, there are people in Russia who are losing a lot because of it, not just because of the war, but also because of the sanctions. And they are very, very unhappy about this. So they diligently listed all the negative factors over 4 pages. But we already know these factors even without their list. Just think about the budget deficit alone. Almost 10 trillion. So the tales about Putin being able to wage war forever, they're just not true. And if tough sanctions had been imposed instead of gifting Lukashenko those gold-plated cufflinks, by the end of this year Putin would literally be squealing, communicating in ultrasonic frequencies. Meanwhile, Kyiv is being visited quite frequently by various guests. Now hand me a volume of Dal, please. Tomorrow, I said. Yesterday, Keith Kellogg arrived in Kyiv, as well as the President of Finland, Alexander Stupa. Today, Prince Harry and the Polish Foreign Minister, Mr. Sikorski, have already arrived. So, with Kellogg, there was a wide range of issues discussed. Joint production of weapons, drones, as well as preparations for the UN General Assembly and sanctions policy against Russia. Kellogg is our kind of person. General Kellogg stands absolutely firmly on the side of justice, meaning he takes a pro-Ukrainian stance. I believe it was absolutely right for Zelensky to express condolences regarding the brutal murder of Charlie Kirk. I actually talked about this yesterday, and today I saw that yes, it did happen. There will be a few more interesting programs with Poland. And as for Prince Harry, he is truly a man with a big heart. Today in Kyiv, he founded the Invictus Games. These are international competitions for former and current military personnel with disabilities, similar to the Paralympic Games, but exclusively for the military. They have been held since 2014. He often visits Ukraine. Last time, he visited the Superhuman Center in Lviv, where he talked and met with our soldiers. And when, in 2022, the next Invictus Games were opened, Invictus means unconquered in Latin, Prince Harry turned to our team and said, "The whole world supports you, but you deserve more." And there's an absolutely wonderful story behind the name. Where did the name Invictus Games come from, and about the poem that became the symbol and foundation of it all? So this poem, it's actually called Invictus, which means unconquered, was written by the British author William Ernest Henley. He was a friend of Robert Louis Stevenson, the very same one who wrote Treasure Island and more. And this William Ernest Henley became the prototype for John Silver, the one-legged pirate, and later his daughter became the prototype for Wendy in Peter Pan. So, he didn't just become the prototype for John Silver by chance, because in real life, he was described as loud-voiced, huge, strong, with a red beard, and on a crutch with one leg. He really was like that. He had suffered from bone tuberculosis since childhood. Because of this, his leg was amputated, and they were supposed to amputate the other one as well, but he fought for his life. He spent 16 months in the hospital, where he discovered his talent for writing poetry and studying languages. And so he overcame this illness and managed to save one of his legs. And this poem became, well, on the medal of the Invictus Games, it says, "I am, yeah." It became a motto. So where did this I come from? Because the poem itself contains some truly powerful words. I'll read you a part of it. I really like it. I know I've talked about it before, but I really like this poem. "Out of the night that covers me, out of the black pit of dreadful pain, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. And though I am caught in the grip of adversity, I have not flinched nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of fate my head is bloodied, but unbowed. The path lies amidst evil and tears. The road ahead is unclear, perhaps, but still, as before, I do not fear hardship or misfortune. It matters not how straight the gate, nor how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." Yes, this very phrase, "I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul," that's exactly what's written on the medal of the Invictus Games. And truly, Prince Harry, a man with a truly big heart, who deeply helps Ukraine, who genuinely helps Ukrainians, I am indeed very glad that he is in Kyiv today, right now. I think he has come with good news for our warriors. And you, friends, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. Let's help our warriors. Let's finish this fundraiser already. There's not much left to go. I'm asking you very much. Wishing us all a peaceful day. And of course, glory to Ukraine.